All right, everybody. Welcome back to Comics Only, the only podcast where comedians talk with other comedians about comedy. My guest today is comedian and writer Mike Harris. How you doing, dude?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. You do a great job with this podcast, man. I love it.
Oh, thank you, dude. You don't have to do all that. How long have you been doing comedy now, Mike?
In November, it'll be 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
You're
So I'm new.
pretty new. Yeah, totally. Where was the first set you ever did?
Stir Crazy. I took a class at Stir Crazy.
Yeah.
I know
You're one of those guys.
Yeah,
huh?
I did the class with Deanne Kincaid. I don't know if you know who she is, but
Sure.
she passed away right after my class. And so I was in the last class that she taught. And then there was a showcase. And the showcase, I got 10 minutes up there at Stir Crazy, and it went really well. So I thought this is pretty easy, right? So I went to an open mic and tried it in front of a bunch of comics the next day. And I was like, I'm going to crush. And not one laugh the entire night.
Well, pretty much anytime you think that's going to happen, it won't.
I have found that out, yeah.
Anytime I've ever gone into a set confident, like, it's just been one of the worst sets of my life. I try to be nervous now, to be honest. I like being anxious. I get in my head, be like, I'm going to bomb. And that seems to help a lot.
It's good, and it's good to have that experience of bombing, right? Because you don't really know. It's hard to really know what you're doing. It's hard to get feedback too at an open mic when it's a bunch of comics, and especially when you're just starting off. You know,
Well,
it's hard to tell if you're doing well
It
or not.
depends what you're trying to accomplish at an open mic. If you are trying to determine, like, you can't just go to a mic and run material necessarily. Sometimes a mic is good and you can just kind of like try your bits out. But like a lot of the times what an open mic is good for is like showing that you're present in the room and that you have stage presence. And it's like, I'm the kind of guy, as a person, like, I'm never going to go up in a room full of comics and be like, oh, I need to try my like 5 minutes that I would do at the club. Because it's just not going to work. Like, comics know the magic trick and like can tell when you're running material on us. It's like, just say something different. It's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is all stuff I'm still trying to figure out. You know, 2 years in is not a long time for doing comedy.
No.
You know, comics who are good at it make it look really easy.
Yeah.
So when you watch a comic that's really great, you're like, I could do that. And then you start doing it. It's really hard to do.
Yeah. Comics appreciate a lot more when you can show that you're in the moment and that you're like present and that you can see what's going on in the room. A lot of times when I go up in a dead room full of just comics, I basically just make fun of how pointless our lives are, like, and talk about, you know, how much we should just be killing ourselves instead of doing this to ourselves or whatever. And that seems to work well because we can all relate to it. It's all a bunch of shit I would never say in the club. I would never do that material in Stir Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Is it pointless to do it at a mic just because I would never do it at Stir Crazy? I don't know. But, like, I don't want to go up and bomb with jokes I know will work in the club. That doesn't make any sense. So I just work on my stage presence and trying to find, I use those mics as like a chance to practice saying something I've never said before. It's scary, but it's a good chance to practice riffing and being in the moment and doing stuff that you wouldn't do at the club.
Yeah, I'm not really there yet. So for me, I've got a really bad memory.
Yeah.
And so when I do get book shows, which I don't do a lot of book shows, but
Sure.
when I do get them, I need to have practiced it. And I can practice at home in front of a mirror, or I can record my set at home. I could do that.
Yeah.
But also, I use the open mics as a way to kind of practice and to make sure that I can kind of structure a set and remember it.
Honestly, though, but I guess my point is, like, if you're just, like, memorizing a set, you could just recite shit at home. Like,
That's true.
You know, a mic is it's just, I don't believe it's, like, ever fruitful to go up and, like, doing something you expect not to work. And, like, you have to be realistic about, like, sometimes that's, like, your jokes. You know, like sometimes you just like can't expect. God, dude, like I get so stressed out from some sets. Like a lot right now when I go like back to Oregon, this is kind of a funny problem to have. When I go back to Oregon, I'm like, okay, I can't do that joke. I can't do this joke. I can't do that joke. And I realize how little material I have that like could travel.
Yeah.
Like, it's all fine here because the crowds here kind of just don't give a shit about anything. And like, I don't know what's better or worse. There's advantages to both very progressive places that refuse to laugh at any kind of racial, you know, any kind of joke that makes fun of the LGBTQ community, even if it's like harmless. That's a lot of times people freeze up just because they like think you're being mean or something. I don't know. But
so do you cater your sets a lot to the room that you're playing in, or do you do the same set? Nope.
No, I don't. There's a bunch of jokes that I do in Arizona that I would not do in Oregon or Washington because I just feel like people wouldn't like them. And that changes. I mean, but always that's dependent on the room. Like
when you were newer and you didn't have as much material, what were you doing then? Because if you only have a certain amount of material,
well, interestingly, a bunch of like meth jokes that worked well in Oregon don't really go well here for whatever reason. People in Oregon are more empathetic towards drug addiction, where people in Arizona are kind of like, ew, tweaker. And like for whatever reason, like jokes that used to work really well for me in Oregon I have a hard time making them work here.
Yeah. So
and I mean, a lot of the crowds hate me here, dude. Like Tom booked me for a weekend to host at Stir Crazy a while ago, like last October. So almost I guess not almost a year, but a while ago. And like the crowds were kind of older and conservative and kind of just like weren't super into me.
Yeah.
You know,
that happens, right? Yeah. I found some of my stuff is a little on the dirty side when I talk about relationship stuff.
Or that show you booked me on. Holy shit,
right,
dude.
But I thought you were great. I thought you were very funny.
I thought I did okay too. Yeah. And I mean, there's certain jokes bombed really hard, I think I remember. But I was just honestly like proud that I went up in a dress that I was terrified to perform in front of them. I was like, I've been freaking out over there thinking you're not going to like these dumb dick jokes.
Right, but I thought about it because I was thinking about that. And I thought, I wonder if you hadn't set it up that way, if they would have reacted differently. If you didn't set them up to not laugh at you.
Yeah, I was also trying to kind of warn them what was coming, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
Like, I was like, if it's maybe a big thing I've been doing recently is opening with like an overly dumb joke. It's like really stupid. And then going, all right, if you don't like that, you're going to hate the rest of this, which just kind of conditions them to being like, oh, he's just fucking around.
Yeah, it's endearing.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, on a lot of the time, the joke kind of bombs. And then that's like that when I go like, if you didn't like that, you're going to hate the rest of this. That kind of crushes. Right. So it kind of like, it's, I don't know. I don't want to really necessarily call it a save. But even if the first joke doesn't land, that usually does. So
yeah, I've looked out into crowds that I'm about to play, and I see a bunch of older people in the crowd, and I think this is not going to go well. And funny enough, those have been the best reactions I've had in the shows that I've done. Yeah.
I
did a show with Kubari Edie. He booked me for a show.
Funny.
Yeah, it was in front of 150 people that were mostly an older crowd, and that's the best show I've ever had.
Yeah.
But when I see an older crowd out there, I immediately go to, oh, they're not going to like this stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean a lot of the time, but you're also a little older, so it's not necessarily.
Yeah,
that's true.
I have enough gray hair to make it work.
You know, we were just talking about keeping politics out of comedy. It's like, as long as you do that, you're not going to like alienate people too much.
Yeah, I did do one political joke, and I set it up, and I said, all right, this is not going to be divisive. You know, it's not, and they all still kind of groaned at the very beginning of it. They're like, oh, yeah, we're not into that. So I told the joke anyway, and it did okay because it wasn't divisive.
Sure.
But, but they all groaned beforehand.
Yeah. Totally. People are so over politics.
Yeah,
me especially. I hate it. Let's see. 2 years. What was the open mic you went to after Stir Crazy?
Oh, I don't even remember. Okay. It was on Grand Avenue. I don't know, some like coffee shop on Grand Avenue or something.
Yeah.
There were a lot of comics there, and I thought, oh man, they're gonna love it. And then
I was just in Denver this weekend, and they had a comedy bar. It's a bar that's owned by a comedian. And then they just have like a bunch of shows and shit there. And it was awesome. And it made me realize like we really could use something like that in Phoenix.
Yeah. That'd
be fun. Like they had like 2 shows in one night, but it wasn't at a club.
There are probably enough comics here to support something like that, right?
For sure, I think. Like it was cool. There's a place that there was just like comics constantly hanging out, like even when there weren't shows. Like on off nights.
Yeah. It's good to knock ideas off of each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's fun people to be around. And I imagine it works well for the bar owner having people in there to like support it all the time.
Yeah, it's like a sports bar for your favorite team, right? Only your
Yeah.
favorite team is comedians.
And then I just thought it was so dope that they had 2 shows in one night. It's like no bar would let us do that here. And they'd be kind of crazy too. But like you couldn't go like, okay, we want to have a talk show panel style show first, and then we're doing a roast after. There'd be 2 comedy in one night. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they just did it, and it worked. It seems sick.
Was there a crowd there, or was it all just
There was a
comics
crowd
listening?
there, but I had a hard time telling how many people were comics and how many people were a crowd. But it doesn't really matter when it's not like a traditional stand-up show, because like comics will laugh at basically anything that's not somebody else doing a set,
Right.
Like, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like
funny.
if a roast, everybody's like, "Oh, I'm into this now." It's my friends being mean to each other, or like the talk show is like enough different. It's a riff or improv or whatever. It has to be.
There's so many different types of shows now. Producers are really getting creative with them.
Yeah.
I haven't been to a lot of them. I go out whenever I can, but it's hard to get to a lot of shows, especially in the Valley. It's all spread out, and
It's fucking
it's
shitty
hard.
here,
Yeah.
dude. I'm telling you,
It's
it's
hard.
like it's a really tough place to do comedy here. I was in Eugene, Oregon before this, and you could walk across town in 15 minutes. You could walk, the furthest you'd ever have to drive would be like 10, 15 minutes. It was crazy. I didn't know how good I had it.
yeah.
And then there's other scenes, Denver seemed a lot more condensed. Portland for sure has a shitload of mics, has more mics than Phoenix, and they're all way closer together.
Do you prefer Portland or Arizona for your type of comedy?
For my type of comedy, definitely Arizona.
Yeah.
For sure. Because, yeah, I don't know. I like being able to say whatever. This is making me sound, I don't like how I sound right now. I have this thing that happens where sometimes like comics will come up to me after a set and be like, "Man, I really like that one pedophile bit." And I'm like, "Thanks, dude. Like, great. I'm glad that's the thing that stuck out from my set to you." Like, it's like, am I that fucking like?
You're the pedophile comic.
Yeah, am I the weird, offensive? I don't ever think of myself that way. And like, because I know I'm never being malicious. I'm just trying to be funny. I'm never trying to be fucked up. I'm just trying to be funny. And I'm just telling the world what I think is funny. I don't think of myself as like an offensive comic, but like I do say kind of like a lot of wild shit, I guess is how I'd put it. But I don't know. I never feel like I'm being like racist or homophobic because I'm not. Like I don't.
Yeah,
hold
I'll try
prejudice.
things also. Yeah, I try.
You
It's
know.
about things that I would never, say in public. That
Yeah.
things that I don't believe in.
Yeah, of course.
just because I think something's funny or a funny premise, and
Yeah.
just trying to work it out. Yeah, but yeah, it's hard because some of the funniest things are offensive
Yeah,
to
like
people.
my new joke, I'm trying to get to work. I can't get it to work. It's like I've been watching the Olympics a lot. This is gonna sound racist, but hear me out. Been watching the Olympics a lot, and I've realized I feel the same way about French people as I do about animals. I think they should be treated well, but I'm not gonna stop eating them. Yeah, right. And you're all right.
All right. Am I allowed to laugh at that? I don't know.
You please don't. It's fine. Nobody else has either, so you shouldn't be the first.
I'll
probably.
join the crowd.
Just my point is like I'm not a cannibal or racist,
Right.
and I don't give a shit about French people. It's just like a funny idea I had, or a not funny idea that I had.
But it's a good premise, right? You can still start.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Who
maybe.
knows? We're working on it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out which minority group would be the funniest to eat. Maybe little people. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
have
a snack.
Yeah. See, that's a funny tag. See, maybe there's something there. I don't think feels bad doing it about like black people or like I don't know. That felt like too much when I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stay
It's hard
quiet
to
and let
pick.
you.
It's hard to pick the right one sometimes, Mike.
I'll let you finish this conversation.
Yeah, I get it. So, anyways, but I never like think of myself as like an offensive. Like I don't think of that as like an offensive joke.
Yeah. No, it's not. I didn't find it
No,
offensive.
no,
I
I don't
maybe
think
cannibals
anybody
would be offended.
Maybe. Not a lot of them around, hopefully.
Yeah.
You ever met a cannibal, Mike?
Not that I know of.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your writing process like? How often do you write?
So I don't just sit down and write.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to, and I can never make it work for me.
Sure.
So I'll do, Mitch Hedberg had a joke that said, he said, I'm a comedian, so my job is to think up funny things and write them down. And, if I can't find a pen, I have to convince myself that's not funny.
Funny.
Yeah,
It's one of the funniest jokes of all time.
Yeah, it's a great
Well,
joke.
for comics, it's such a joke. Like, it's funny to regular people, but it's so funny to comedians. So I know that exact feeling.
Yeah, so that's me. I'll be like driving and an idea will hit me, and I'll just pull out my phone and record something on video, or I'll make a note in my phone, but I don't sit down and just write.
Yeah, it's hard. My advice on that, I guess, is like the more you practice it, the more you can develop a skill to do that. And my advice is like, don't sit down and try and write like from blank. Like, just like constantly be making notes about little things, and then come to those later and try to just write a few lines about them and see what comes.
Yeah, that's
and maybe you'll find that a little bit more productive than just sitting at a computer and trying to. I can't do that either. I can't sit down and think of a joke, but if I was out and saw something kind of silly happen and didn't have enough time to write, but had enough time to write down like homeless guy tickling other homeless guy, and then go back and later write the story out.
Yeah, I was at the Purple Turtle doing
a show. Lucky you.
Yeah, that was a rough night, but
shout out to Jesse Evers.
Yeah, Jesse hasn't had me back.
Oh, he told me, I don't think Jesse will ever book me on anything, so whatever.
He told me I wasn't brutal enough for that show, and he's right.
Yeah,
but before the show, I saw a guy who was just sitting at the table and he was signing to himself, and I thought it was like a crazy homeless guy like doing sign language to himself, like a homeless deaf guy. But it turned out he had a phone and he was signing to somebody over the phone.
Oh,
but I wrote that down as a premise, and I tried to work it out at a workshop, and it got laughs at the workshop, but it's not really. I haven't been able to finish that joke yet.
Yeah,
I think it's a good premise though. So that's what I do. I see something or I think of something and I just make notes about it and try to work on it.
Yeah, nice. That's the way to do it, really. How often do you think you come up with like a new bit? Do you feel not like stressed to like come up with more?
No, I do. 2 years in, I have probably. I say that when I started, I had 10 minutes, and now I've got 5.
Right.
Maybe
in a year
3.
you'll have 3.
Yeah. So you get down to you whittle it down to the things that you really like, and then the things that I like that work every time. It is like 3 to 5 minutes, and if I have to stretch it, it's terrible, and I hate those jokes beyond 5 minutes. But the 3 to 5 I really like, but I'm tired of telling them because I've been telling them for 2 years.
It's refreshing. You're so realistic about your ability.
Yeah.
Instead of doing 20-minute sets or whatever already.
Yeah, people will book me for like 10 minutes, and I'll tell them I only have 7. So 7 is like cool, a tops.
Yeah, that's sick. Dude. I wish more comics were like you. For real, it's a problem around here, people. I don't know. Everybody does it. Oftentimes, it's like your first year in comedy, you feel like a real comedian, and like the more you do it, the more you feel like a fraud.
Yeah. Total imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
right? All the
You're
time.
Like, I was been really terrible all that time.
Yeah.
It's people don't realize how important it is that like nobody sees you at first. People like try really hard here their first like year in comedy to get on good fun shows. And it's like people are gonna remember that you're bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that first impression is not
like,
gonna be a good one.
Dude, I was in Eugene, Oregon for 3 years, and like I was pretty good by the time I left. And that scene, like nobody felt like I was good. Like nobody thought I was good. They all remembered how bad I was because I was bad for a long time. Yeah. Comedy, I was not like a quick learner with comedy. It was like a year and a half before I had like any kind of real stage presence. And even now it's like just getting to the point where I'm not even sure I'm happy with it, but I'm like happier. Like stage presence was hard for me.
That was the easy part for me. The hard part is the writing.
Interesting. Yeah. So
I was like, I did theater growing up.
Yeah,
and,
that helps.
Yeah, and I've worked in TV and been around cameras and stuff. So I'm no stranger to being in front of people.
Yeah.
So that part was easy for me. It's more about like, the difference is when you're doing comedy, it's personal, right? So it's your personal take on something, and it almost feels like if they don't laugh, like it's an attack on you.
Yeah, that's something you have to get over. Like you can't let it show that it bothers you. But also, it's kind of weird, like when you're watching a comic and they're performing so hard that even though they're bombing, it's like they're not, and it's like no, like. We're all here. Like, we see what's happening. Like, why are you acting like this is going well?
Yeah.
You know, it's like a little weird, too.
A lot of people post that online, too. Like, hey, it was amazing tonight. And, and you were like, I was there. It wasn't that great.
Oh, well, yeah. We're going to talk about comedians lying online, Mike. We're going to be here for fucking 7 hours or something. And days, actually. Like, yeah. But people take pictures of shows from the angle that make it look like there's people there. It was like 4.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'll go online and I'll say, tonight was rough, but I learned something.
Yeah. I don't really say anything online. I try to make a real effort not to. It's crazy the stuff people put up. Raven Gregory, I'm talking to you.
Raven, is he online?
Oh, dude, he's online.
No, I'm kidding. I follow Raven on all the platforms.
He posted something the other day. It was like, man, the shit you see people post online is like, we all feel that way about you.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
I like it when his friends call him out on it.
Yeah. Raven's nuts.
He's great though. He's
absolutely.
I don't know anyone in this in the like local scene here who's more supportive than Raven.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I'll give it to you. I'm not going to do the math on that one. He's a good dude. I like Raven.
Yeah.
Have you done all the clubs here? You done?
I did JP's once.
Yeah, once, sure.
I mean, it's in Gilbert.
It's an hour away. Yeah,
that was just an open mic night.
Yeah.
And that was a hard club for me. It was after a show, and
it always is.
Yeah. Okay. So it's always after a show, and then by the time the show was over, the entire front section emptied out, and I was like one of the last comics to go in the open mic part. So by the time I got up there, it was so dark, and I couldn't see one person out there in the audience. I didn't know if there was anybody out there or not. So
right.
I didn't know if I was talking to myself. So
I remember I did JP's one time, and I bought like a $6 Gatorade or whatever. I paid like $3 or maybe $5 to be there. So I'm like $11 in at this point, and fucking I'm like late on the list for whatever reason. And I get up, there's like not many people there. I was like, is anybody here not a comedian? And nobody fucking made a noise. I was like, I'm really glad I paid $11 to do this set for you guys tonight. Jesus Christ.
So I've also done House of Comedy a few times. I'm actually doing that tonight.
Mike be Are you doing House of Comedy? Oh yeah, you said that to me.
We got Mike Dapper's show tonight.
Yeah, Mike's cool as hell.
Yeah, he's great. And then Stir Crazy. Actually, the coolest experience I've had was I paid for a show, and my wife and I went to go see Nick Gira at Stir Crazy, who's one of my favorites traveling comics who comes here. And for whatever reason, there was a mix-up. He was supposed to bring a feature, and he didn't, or he wasn't supposed to bring a feature, and they thought he was, whatever. So Tom came out and found me in the crowd and asked me if I could go up and do a little time.
Cool.
So I got to do 5 minutes on that show.
What a night.
Was really cool.
Yeah, that's like one of those really, you
Yeah.
Make you believe in God type of nights. So like, how does this happen?
Like during an actual show, I got to go up and perform. Yeah. It was just a guest spot, but it was fun. It was great.
Of course.
That was a highlight for me.
Well, just being on a show with like somebody you respect. Like,
super cool.
Really, really fun. Yeah. It's the best. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like, I go to this comedy festival every year in Eureka, and like the really special part is like, you really get a chance to hang out with comics that are bigger than you. Like last year, Kyle Kinane was one of the headliners.
Wow. Yeah.
And like, I got to spend some time with Kyle, just hanging out, kicking it.
That's very cool.
He's such a good dude. I was hanging at the club eating a sandwich, and he walked in. He's like, "Where the fuck did you get that?" And I was like, "At the shop." And he's like, looked it up. He's like, "Ah, oh, God damn it. Like, they close before my set's going to be over." And I was like, "I can go get you a sandwich, dog." And he's like, no, I don't want to do that to you. And the idea that like he could be at his level and not willing to send an open micer to go get a sandwich for him was really cool to me. I fucked up. I should have just gone and gotten a sandwich, but
I didn't
want to be weird about it.
Yeah. I go to open mics to hang out with comics who are bigger than me.
Right. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. If they're still cool, they'll be there.
Yeah.
Fucking people stop miking so fast here, though, dude. It's just... It's a lot of 40-person lists. It's a lot of... You know what they do in Denver that's kind of interesting is they make a list, but the host gets to do it in whatever order they want. And they don't tell anybody, like, necessarily when that is. They just kind of come and tell you when you're next, which encourages all the comics to just sort of hang out.
Yeah, it's like a bucket pull.
And it seems like each host kind of does it uniquely. Like, some of the hosts basically follow the list in order, but also if there's like people that have to go that have like credibility with the scene, like if it's somebody that everybody knows has been doing comedy 5 years and they show up and they say they got another show, they just get put on and get to go because that's like they've earned some respect for the time they've put in.
Yeah, they've got their chops.
And then like some new people get bumped to the end even if they were put up because like other people, or not to the end, but get bumped because other people are coming in and need to go to spots and they don't have anything else to do. They just have this mic tonight. And it's like, but that's a good thing to learn when you're new in comedy is that like sometimes you have to fucking wait, like, and it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
And it seems like an advantage to doing a mic that way would be that it would encourage like the big dogs or whatever of the scene to come hang out a little bit more. Because like people like Lamar or Mike B. Dapper or
Rob maybe.
Well, Rob's kind of out a lot anyways, but definitely Rob's a good example. People like that, right? And maybe even like people like Gene Moore, people you really don't see at mics, but people really love and would love to see at mics. They would probably hang out more if they like didn't like have to show up early and wait till like, you know, like people at that level just aren't going to do an open mic if they have to show up an hour early and they're going to be 30th on the list anyways. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Those guys, they may not like hang out and watch you and stuff, but it gives you a chance to like learn and watch them, right?
Yeah, for sure. Mics, yeah. And like, if they were coming out to mics more, they would watch people more, just inherently. Even if it's just because like most comics like want to watch at least a couple comics before them, just to get an idea of what's going on in the show. Yeah, it's always kind of crazy to me if a comic's like out of the room, not paying attention to the show the whole time, and they just go on stage. It's like, you don't even know what's been happening in there. Like, what if something drastic happened and you're not addressing it and you need to be?
Yeah.
Like sometimes that happens.
Even just at an open mic, I did Backstreet Asia. And I'd come from Cheers, so I did Cheers, and then I went into Backstreet Asia, and I got there just as Cole East was hosting, and just as he was closing the show, and he saw me walk in, and he goes, "All right, we got one more guy," and I went straight up on stage, and I couldn't remember my jokes, like I didn't know anything about the room, like I hadn't prepped for it, so yeah, it's even at an open mic that's difficult.
Yeah, definitely. I was hosting a mic a couple weeks ago, and like I was like, "All right, it's our last comic. It's our last comic." And like, as that guy's on stage, another comedian walks in. I'm like, "God damn it!" And then I'm like, "All right, guys, we got one more comedian." And then as that dude was on stage, another comic walked in. I was like, "All right." It was so annoying.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny though. I was like, "I promise, I haven't been lying. You saw them walk in, like." I didn't know. I couldn't have known.
What do you think makes an open mic successful? Like, is it the host? Is it the venue?
Well, a good host makes a world of difference. Venue makes the biggest difference. If there's a lot of things that are good for a mic. Aguila's, have you been to Hitaway?
Yeah.
Hitaway is perfect because it's in a room that's separate from the main like hangout. So, like, the only people that are going to be down there are people who actually want to listen to the show. Nobody's really crazy enough to hang out there and just, like, be boisterous,
right?
Not listening to the show, which makes it good. And it's on the way into the like, normal hangout spot. So people hear the comedy kind of coming from the basement. And they're like, what the fuck's that? And people that want to listen and are curious come down, and the people that aren't just leave, which makes that really perfect room for a mic. I think having a room that's separate from a bar is good. And then any place that has like people hanging out that aren't comedians.
Yeah.
And that's a tricky line to walk because like you got to it's hard finding some place where having comedy won't actively bother people. You know, like there's this open mic in Eugene I was just talking to my friends about. It's at like this really nice cider house where drinks are like $8 a piece. And it's like nobody here wants a free open mic to be happening while they buy their $8 ciders. Yeah. They want to like talk with their friends. This is a nice night out for them, and we're ruining it. That's why they're not laughing. It's not because we're not funny. It's because they're mad at us. You know?
What are your favorite open mics here, Valley?
The ones close to me. Yeah. You know, in the Valley, that's what matters the most to me. I need to start going east side more though, because like I've kind of just over the summer, it was just like, I'm not driving fucking 45 minutes and 115 degrees to go bomb for 6 comics. But I am feeling like the gap between me and the east side right now, and I just don't really know what's going on out there.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Maybe we can get a group, little caravan going.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Or something. Yeah, going out there.
Yeah. But I guess I'm kind of hosting Tap 2 because Joseph's not been around recently. On Tuesdays, I do bullshooters and Aguilas. I really like bullshooters.
I haven't been there.
It's a fun hang, and it's like pretty decent usually in terms of like there being more than just comedians. Not every time. Like sometimes you get there, it's pretty dead. But that's any mic that can happen to, including Stir Crazy. It's like sometimes Stir Crazy is half full and people are not laughing that much, and it's just kind of a tough night. It's like that can happen anywhere. So worrying about it too much isn't good.
Yeah, I do love the Stir Crazy open mic.
It's the best.
Though.
I mean, Stir Crazy is a beautiful room. Yeah. The open mic seems to draw a really fun crowd. Like as much as I had that issue there on that weekend when I was hosting, I felt like the conservative older crowds kind of didn't really like me. I never feel that way at the mic, basically, every now and then.
Yeah, I think they pull great crowds. I don't know how they do it on a Wednesday.
I don't know.
They just pull in great crowds. It was that cheeseburger special?
No, I don't know. I was going to say a lot of it is that, like, when you're having an open mic like that with 10 people or more, that, like, people are going to show up to support their friends or whatever. That helps. And then maybe just because it's cheaper. It's a $6 night to get in.
It's a good night out.
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. It's definitely worth
I like
$6.
what Lamar says is true. You know, you don't know who you're going to see, right? You might see someone who blows up someday.
Yeah. Definitely.
You saw him for $6.
With the amount of people that Stir Crazy puts on, almost certainly to some extent, somebody you've seen there will blow up.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I saw Celia there, right?
Right.
She's doing great.
Yeah, she is. Shout out to Celia.
Shout out to
Celia.
It's
funny. I don't know. It's like, that's such a weird thing, right? Because it's like, she's doing great, and she's had like a lot of cool opportunities from Kill Tony and all that, but it's like still... I imagine she's still very far away from being like a working comic. Yeah. And that's just like depressing to think about. It's like she's had all these breaks and it's still not like enough. It's like, oh, even if that happened to me, I wouldn't be like there.
Yeah. She did say she was able to pay her rent last month or
that's
2 months
awesome.
ago or something.
Hell yeah. Hopefully, comedy, hopefully she can just every month. Shout out.
Yeah.
You know, but like I worry, I worry she paid her rent and doesn't have enough left over for taxes. Yeah,
it's a hard way to make a living.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but just my impression is that like even with all that, she's still away. Like it's not like she's touring, headlining.
Right.
You know, that's basically where you have to be to make a living, I think.
Yeah. Well, I hope she gets there.
Yeah, I mean, she seems to have a good chance, to be honest. People like her. She's very funny. She's been working her ass off for years. I have a lot of respect for Celia. Yeah. I didn't mean to be like down on her. Just realistic about how fucking impossible this thing we're trying to do is.
It's hard to make a living.
Yeah, you have to be able to draw. If you can't get people out to see you, nobody's gonna give you money, dude. Like not real money, you know. If you can't get people out to see you based on your name, you're lucky if people give you gas money. Like,
that's right.
You should be grateful for gas money.
The most I've ever made is $20.
Oh,
and I was super happy to get it. Yep.
Yeah, that's tough.
But I'm not doing it for a living. I have another job that pays my bills.
Yeah.
So
there's a club. This guy just opened a club in Eugene where it's kind of depressing because the whole time I was there's no club. I just moved here. Within a year, they opened a new club. Oh my God. It's actually kind of perfect because, they'll put me on whenever I go back. So probably I'm getting more spots than if I was actually in Eugene because like people miss me and they're like happy I'm there. But this club owner, one time I did his show. He used to have this show that was just in the middle of a field in front of his vineyard. And like you just show up, he'd like give you the address, and you'd show up. You'd be like, "Where the fuck are we?" And then you'd just like get out of the car, and there'd just be 150 chairs in a field and a stage, and you're like, "I guess this is a comedy venue." There's like a freeway and cars zooming past, vroom, vroom. But I went with my friends one time, and he saw me. He's like, "You a comic?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to host tonight?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." I hosted. Afterwards, he gave me $150. I was like,
Wow, that's
"Okay,
great.
you're the coolest guy ever."
Yeah, that sounds like a fun place to do a show.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was epic. I think he's a little bit more I don't know what the right word is, conservative with his payments now that he's running a club. Yeah. 'Cause you know, when you're putting a show on in a field, you can be like, we can afford, we'll give you all the tickets sales. It doesn't matter. But like, yeah, when you got rent and lights to keep on and staff to pay and all that, it seems a little harder. You can't just be giving hosts $150. I'm positive that's not what they get per show. I know it's not.
Yeah. I heard when you had Tom on the show that you talked to him that you were saying that you might want to open a club someday. Is that something you still?
Yeah, I think I go back and forth on it. Tom kind of scared me out of it, but now I'm kind of like just in my head. I'm like, Tom's wrong, whatever. fuck that opinion. He was telling me how it's very difficult to keep comedy going and like still be a comedian once you're a club owner, because you just have all these other concerns, and you know you're busy, and it's like kind of the last thing on your mind. Yeah. And
I wonder if it takes the joy out of it. You know, if it
right.
Yeah,
I think there's probably a middle ground where you could be half comedian and half club owner. And maybe Tom and other people would argue that you would fail at both in that case. And like maybe that's true. But I don't know. I kind of see a possible, like being at that bar that was owned by a comedian, and maybe it's something like that is what I would want to do.
Yeah, maybe some hybrid thing, not necessarily a club, but
not necessarily a club, maybe a middle ground where it's like we put on a bunch of shows there, but it's mainly supposed to be a hangout for comics. Because like we don't have that in the Valley, you know. None of the clubs. I hate this, and like, I really wish it was different, and I kind of understand why it is the way it is, but I still wish it was different. None of the clubs are like that supportive to the local scene. They all have little things they do.
Because they're trying to make money, right?
Crazy. They're all trying to make money. Yeah. They're all very corporate, is my take. And I understand why they have to be that way. But I also think like the Valley would really benefit from like a Comic Central club, whereas like this is the club for the comedians of the Valley, not the comics trap passing through from LA. And
maybe like a co-op, you know?
Yeah.
Get a bunch of the comics.
It'd be cool. Yeah. Something like that. But
because comics have tons of free money, just
right,
hanging around.
Well, I mean, comics are going to spend their money on beer and alcohol anyway, so it's like you could be the one to sell it to them, and if it was at a reasonable price, people would hang out there.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
You know, all the clubs have little things they do, like Stir Crazy. Has the open mic. It's one of the only open. I think. Oh well, JP's. Mic drop. I shouldn't discount all the open mics in the Valley, but it's one of the best opportunities you can get, especially as a new comic. But also, like, it would be better for the local scene if they ran it a little differently. And like, I don't know. I was there last week, and there was like 4 or 5 people on that were there for the first time, or not there for the. We're doing comedy for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah. And it's like people paid money for this, and we're in a club, and they could do it where they just kind of picked the 10 comics, and that way they would be kind of rewarding the people that they like. It could be a middle ground where I know Tom has comics he likes that he doesn't think are ready to be booked at the club. And it could be a middle ground where he's like, here, we're giving you this time on the mic. We see you working. We like you, but we don't think you're quite ready yet, but here's an opportunity. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. As a newer comic, like, of course, I'm not owed anything, but I do like the opportunity to get up there and perform. And I guess that way, the way that you're describing, like, that would kind of go to the wayside, right?
No, I don't think necessarily. It depends how much they were paying attention, and... but I don't think so. I think, like, Lamar already has a very good idea of who's there hanging out, trying to get spots. That stuff matters to him. So I think it would be better if like how newer comics got spots were more the standby spots, and like
So
the more
7
established comics were the ones that were doing. So if he still did 3 10-minute spots that were like, you know, the people they normally are, Gene Moore, whoever, you know, and then they had 10 3-minute spots that they booked, but it was just open mic comics, basically at your and my level. And then they had some standby spots, and they encouraged people who were really new to come up and try to stand up for the standby spots. That would be a better way to structure it.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Or I don't know, I don't know if it'd be better, but I think it would be just a little bit. It's
more fun for the audience.
It'd be better. I think it'd be better for the audience for sure. I think it'd be better for the local scene, because I think there's a lot of comics that work hard that don't necessarily get spots there. And if they could just get on the mic twice a month instead of once, that would be like a pretty big, like, I know that would make a big difference in my life, at least, you know, having 3 more minutes at Stir Crazy every month would be pretty cool. And then like, I don't think it's bad to like kind of make it harder for like, not harder, but like you should realize that like you have to hang out and like show that you're in this. It's like kind of crazy how easy it is for new comics to do comedy here and how hard it is for established comics to do comedy here. I don't know. That's like my kind of take on it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the mics, anybody can show up, but you're talking more about
like club opportunity. Yeah. And then mic drop's cool, but also you're like outside, and if they fucking if there's no show inside, they just cancel the mic instead of bringing it inside, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is kind of an afterthought, you know, like they're just like hoping we buy some drinks while we're out sweating our balls off.
Yeah, I've only been to mic drop a couple of times, and I performed there on. There was a show that Gene and Ernie were putting on where they had. It's called So You Think You're Funny or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. And so I showed up, I drove all the way out there, and they put us in that small outside spot. Yeah. While there was a big show going on inside. It was kind of awful.
Yeah.
But the club is great.
The club's beautiful, and I love the people there. But, like, it just, like I was saying, all the clubs could be more supportive of the local scene. And I understand why they're not. It would cost money that maybe they don't want to spend.
Yeah, their margins are probably small to begin with.
And they're all just trying to, like, do their best. But, like, it would still be cool if we had something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Being in Denver and seeing that bar made me realize that the club in Eugene, like, really made me realize that like, you can, I mean, they have their issues too, but, like, you can design a club to foster a scene. And I think I would love to do something like that.
I'm kind of thinking the comedy co-op idea is kind of cool. A bunch of people kind of pitching in and having ownership of it.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. And it would be fun. Like, you could control the price of drink. Like, comics will hang out anywhere there's cheap drinks, dude, to be honest. Like, that's all you have to do is, like, if you could have, like, $3 beers, comics will be there all fucking night.
Yeah, just pull up a kegger.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it like college days.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I would like to own a club, but I don't know how hands-off you could be. I'd still like to tour and, like, try to be a touring comic. So, but there's people who make that work. You know who Nate Jackson is?
No, I don't.
He's a comic from Tacoma, Washington. He owns a club there. He still tours and does, like, theater tours. Like, he sells out, like, 1,000-seat theaters. So he's doing both simultaneously. It's like, if he can, probably other people can.
Yeah, I'm sure we can make that happen.
I'm not sure about that, but, like, I think that maybe one day I could own a 100-seat club and then tour and do other 100-seat clubs. Yeah, that seems very possible.
That sounds like a great dream to me.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you were performing comedy for 100 people, like, each time you performed, that'd be pretty fucking epic. Yeah.
That show
even
I did with
60.
Yeah, that show I did with Kubari was about 150 people.
Yeah,
it was great. It was so fun.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's by far
doing
the
Stir Crazy when it's sold out is magic. That's about 100 people.
Yeah, done that
doing House of Comedy when it's sold out is magic. That's like 250, I think, probably. That's crazy. Yeah, it's cool. I'm trying to
Why'd you
think.
get into comedy?
I was bored. I stopped shoplifting because I was gonna get in trouble, and I was just bored and needed something to do that would like give me adrenaline rush. And I was like, I think comedy would probably do that. I did it once. I was like, that was fun, and just kind of never stopped. It was actually really good for me because I haven't started shoplifting again, which is nice.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it is good.
So it wasn't like a childhood passion or anything?
I liked comedy growing up, and ever since I can remember, I've found value in being funny. I feel like ever since I was a little kid, when I was hanging out with my friends, everything we said all the time, you were always going for a laugh. Like, we weren't having deep conversations. We were trying to make each other laugh, like, constantly. Yeah. That's my memory of being a high schooler. Like, even in class, like, I was constantly like thinking of like little things to do that were funny. Or like, I played baseball a lot seriously growing up, and baseball, you're like out there for hours and it's like real boring. So you think of funny things to do. So like always I've found value in humor. But I never like watched stand up and like really connected. Like, that's what I want to do.
Were you surprised when you started doing it about how many comedians like really have drug issues, mental health issues, stuff like that? Like,
yes,
the people that are funny,
I was.
It comes from like a dark place a lot of the time.
A lot of the time, yeah, it sure does. Yeah, honestly, I thought we were past a lot of issues as a society. That as soon as I started doing comedy, I was like, oh no, people still drink and drive, people still smoke cigarettes. Crazy. It's like I thought people knew not to do that shit yet. It's the same thing with drugs, people, you know. Yeah. I thought people knew not to get addicted to cocaine.
Yeah. I had a premise I was working on where I was going to say something like, it's not funny yet, but sure. I was going to say something like, you know, I'm a straight white male comic without mental health issues. I'm basically a DEI hire on this show.
yeah, that's good. Try that. I think it'll work. That's funny. Yeah.
That's not true. I do have some mental health issues.
I was gonna say
everyone does
it. It's funny though. Yeah. That's a good tag. I'm kidding. I do have mental health issues. Yeah. That's funny. That's actually really good. That'll all go together pretty well, I think.
I'll give it a shot.
You know, most of the time I hate anything anybody comes up with on this show. So the fact that I didn't on that means I think it'd probably do well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And good night.
Oh, where are we at? No, we got 13 minutes, Mike. Good try.
All right.
Let's see here. Do you like set goals for yourself or not really?
For comedy, not really.
Yeah.
I started comedy when I was 52 years old.
Right. It's pretty freeing to start at 52 in a way because you're like, I don't need to like.
Yeah, I don't worry about.
There's
things.
like no pressure, kind of.
Yeah, I'm not trying to play theaters, and I'm not trying. Of course, if that happened, I would love it. But you know, my goals are small. They're just to go out there, have fun, write new jokes, make people laugh, enjoy other comics, and just kind of be part of the scene and just have fun with it.
Yeah. Why did you start comedy?
I've always loved it. Like
going
back
you started so late.
Yeah, I was always scared of it.
Scared. Yeah, but a lot of Yeah,
I did.
Remember, it's so scary your first time. People don't realize.
So I'll tell you a story. When I was in, I think it was high school, maybe college days, I didn't realize how bad it was to steal someone else's act. And I did an open mic with somebody else's complete act, which had been on the Young Comedian Show. And I just went up there and I did his act, and someone yelled something from the crowd like, "You stole that act." I was like, oh, shit. And so after that...
You're mad about that?
Right. After that, I was gun shy after that. So I guess it took me another 30 years to get up on stage again.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
At this point in my life, though, like I don't feel bad if people don't like me or don't laugh. I'm established enough in the rest of my life that I don't really worry about it.
Yeah.
So if I have a bad night, I'm bummed about it. I really want to do well. I want to make people laugh. I want to give them value, especially if they're paying to be there or spending time to be there. But if I'm not really funny that night or they don't like my humor, I don't really take it personally anymore.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. Yeah. Never take anything personally.
Yeah.
4 agreements. You know that thing? I don't know. Okay. It's pretty good. Never take anything personally is good advice, especially with comedy. It's even if it's personal. You know, just don't even. I do feel that way a lot where like I'm confident enough where with like where I'm at in comedy to be like, I know I'm funny, but I don't know if an audience is gonna like me or not. It feels like that makes a bigger difference than like.
I still have a total imposter syndrome every time I go up there. Like, I think I'm funny at times, but I'm not always sure. And so a lot of the time I get up there and in my head, I'm almost thinking like, I'm sorry you guys have to watch me for 7 minutes.
That's healthy in a way. It's healthy in a way, but also probably not.
It probably all depends on the last show that I had. If I'm coming off a good show, then I'm confident, sometimes overly confident, like we were saying in the beginning, and you're like, oh, I'm going to kill, and then it goes bad. Yeah. But if I'm coming off a bad show, I kind of go into it going, oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah, that can happen. Yeah. And you catch, I mean, the way comedy is, dude, you catch like 4 or 5 bad sets in a row sometimes. You're like, can I even do this? Like,
that night
it feels like I can't.
Yeah, the night I was talking about earlier where I went straight from Cheers to Backstreet Asia. Yeah. It was 2 sets. 0 laughs. It was awful. It was so.
You're like, maybe Backstreet will be a little better.
I went home and I was like, I'm done doing comedy. but luckily for me, like the show prior to that, I killed. So
no, dude, there's always a turn coming. So you watch baseball?
Yeah,
comedy is a lot like baseball to me. You have to do it a lot. And you're going to go through slumps where it feels like you just can't fucking hit the ball. You're going to go through hot streaks where you're like, I'm a baseball god. And it's the same in comedy where, you're going to go in streaks and slumps. And there's not, you just got to keep going.
Yeah,
there's
keep grinding.
Yeah. There's no point really in worrying why, or in the same way that like worrying why you're not hitting isn't helpful. Just focus on what you know how to do. Keep moving forward. I mean, I'm at this point in my career where I'm like constantly just having to remind myself, just like have fun and like just worry about getting funnier and having better sets. It's like not helpful to worry about the opportunities you're not getting. Keep hitting up the bookers, but like stressing out about like why somebody else is getting a show and you're not isn't helpful. Yeah. And it's like the more you do comedy, the more you like hope that you're going to be booked more and be getting better opportunities. But like sometimes you're just waiting, like you got to wait for the right opportunity to hit or whatever.
Yeah. I came into comedy at a weird time in my life. Not, I was 52, like I said, but I had just been remarried too. So, I have a wife who likes to spend time with me, and I have a full-time job, which takes, a lot of my time. And so it's really hard for me to, especially the late mics, like Aguilas, stuff like that. I love that mic, but it already
starts late, and then it starts late on top of starting late.
So it's an excuse, but a lot of those things are just hard for me to get to.
Yeah,
so the networking is hard, but that's something that I want to become better at. And
nice. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I guess if I was going to give you advice, that's the advice I would give you is just hang out more. Yeah. More people should know you, who you are. It sucks, but it's a big part of comedy is just like being around.
Yeah. I see a lot of people who I don't
especially
think are
in
that
this
funny
big scene.
Yeah.
Especially in a big scene like this, people forget about you quick. And it's not personal. It's just we're around a lot of names and faces, and it's hard to remember everybody. And if you're not just like the most exceptionally funny motherfucker, people are going to forget about you. And even then, probably still, if you know.
You see a lot of people, though. I see a lot of people that I don't find particularly funny who get booked all the time because they're always out.
They're out. Also, people bookers book people they like. It's just how it is. And I do it when I book shows, and I don't judge people who do it because I like spending time around people I like too. Yeah, and it's like, why wouldn't you pick the people you like? It seems crazy. It's like there's a lot of funny comedians. There's not a lot of comedians that I love to spend time around or whatever. There's a ton of comedians I love spending time around. I have a lot of respect for anybody who does comedy. But like, you got to remember that perspective from a booker always, that just like, they're not going to go with the funniest person or the person that's been overlooked for the last 3 years. They're going to go with the person they want to spend time around.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Yeah. When I book shows, I've only booked 3 or 4 shows. But I try to I don't really go that same route. I try to find whoever's funniest. I don't care if I like them or not.
Yeah.
I try to find people that I think are going to destroy that room.
Yeah, it's a good way to be as a booker. But my point, I guess, is that those things are very rarely mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Bookers know a lot of people that they think are very funny that they also like. So, but I hear what you're saying about seeing people that you don't necessarily think are funny. But also, people think that about you, Mike. I'm sure.
I'm sure. They're like, why is this guy on the show again?
Right. Always. Yeah. Especially, like, I think it's funny. I feel like there's probably a lot of open mic comedians that see me out at open mics, and they're like, "This guy gets booked at clubs." It's like this.
But you're not doing your. You're not doing your club set.
This is not what I would say at the club. This is what I'm saying to you, motherfuckers. You know,
right?
It's different.
I've seen you both at clubs and at open mics. I always think you're funny.
Thank you.
And I'm not just sucking up. I really do. I like you.
Thank you. But I take a lot of pride in how often I do well in shitty rooms compared to like that means, for whatever reason, that means more to me than doing well in a club.
Yeah, it's harder.
Know? It's harder. And yeah, and it shows. There's something about that being in the moment that's very important. And it shows that you have that when you do well at dead open mics.
Yeah.
For whatever.
That's something I haven't really had a lot of experience like doing great at a dead open mic.
Right. I mean, yeah. A lot of people probably feel the same way, and it's tough. And like, I don't know. I'm hoping that skill translates to like, and I'm sure it does. I'm sure it translates to being good at comedy.
I feel like crowd work is like, if you're in a dead room, crowd work is a good thing to go to, and that's not a strength of mine right now.
Yeah, so that's a great reason to work on it in a dead room. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You bomb anyways. Like,
right.
It's fine.
Yeah,
right? You know.
Yeah. Either and
at least like the comedians will know that you're saying something new, and that like I don't know, for whatever reason, it seems like comics really hate that. It's like if you're saying something and they can tell you've said it before, they'll just shut it down unless it's so exceptionally funny. I've seen like really great comics struggle with that kind of thing where they're just rehearsed, you know.
Yeah, it's not fluid.
Yeah. Can't do it. Do you have anything you want to plug?
But no, by the time this comes out, I'll be done with my. I do have a couple of book shows coming.
He has a corporate job. Don't get him fired. No,
right.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, I've got a couple shows coming up.
Sure.
I don't know the dates offhand. So that was a terrible plug.
Okay. Couple shows coming up. Check them out on Instagram.
yeah, they'll be on Instagram. PhotoAZ33 on Instagram.
Okay, it'll be in the description.
All right.
Thanks for doing this, dude. It was fun hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, man.
All right.